Hello. Oh, there we go. We have a guest speaker today. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. You know who it is? Christopher. Well, how'd you know that? Because it's in our bulletin. If you've met this gentleman, talked with him, you know how perfect he is for us here. Because we're all just a bunch of misfits. Egyptian mysticism, Rosicrucian, liberal, Catholic, priest. Gosh, I better stop here. It's Christopher!
Whoa. This always happens. I come in here, there's just a few people, I sit down and, I kind of like to read the songs that's in the book there, and I turn around and then poof. Monday was the 22nd of July. Monday was the 35th wedding anniversary of my wonderful bride and myself.
How's she doing?
She's doing really well. She's doing really well. I even wrote a little poem about it because the 35th wedding anniversary, I think it's Cold and Jade. So I wrote a little poem, ended it with, my love will never fade as long as there's cold and jade, that kind of thing. Anyway, I want to talk to you this morning. I'm here, yes, okay. So it's interesting because I think about, what am I going to talk about? And then I go, I'm not going to worry about it. And when I don't worry about it, it's so nice. It just really flows and it just really comes through. So there's a couple of things that kind of kept drifting in and out of my mind. So we'll see what happens with them. First one. There was in the Himalayas this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful temple. It was gorgeous. Not that it had gold or anything. It was just the workmanship in the wood and the stonework. It was beautiful. It was a Buddhist monastery. There was an older monk there. He had been there for years and years and years and years. And a lot of the younger monks really looked up to him for his wisdom and his insight and the way he viewed life. And there was next to this monastery a river that came down out of the mountains, and it was really running very fast. And maybe about 50 yards downstream from the monastery, it dropped into a waterfall that had to be in at least 75 to 100 feet drop. This big pool, and then it continued on to the sea. One morning, the older monk was standing next to the river's edge. And all of the young monks came running out of the temple and they said, "Don't stand so close to the water. Don't stand so close to the water. What happens if you slip and you fall in?" And they're running towards the monk. And just before they get to him, he slips and he falls into the river. And a current's really fast. And it drags him down the river, and the young monks are running along the shore, and they're waving their hands, and what do we do? And they're freaking out, and they watch as the old man goes down the river 50 yards and over the waterfall. Now, there was a path that led from the top of the waterfall down to the bottom, to where the pool was. And so they all scurried over to that path, and they ran down there as fast as they could, because they just knew when they got there, they would find the body of the old monk. And when they got down there, They were all surprised because there was the old monk pulling himself up on the shore, just getting out of the water, soaking wet, with a smile on his face. I guess it was hot. And the young monks, they go, Master, Master, how did you survive the fall? How did you survive the water? What happened? And this is what he said. He smiled at them and he said, oh, when the water went down, I went down. And when the water went up, I went up. And that's all he said. So what was the meaning of that? What did that story really represent? Go with the flow. Now, I've heard this story many, many times over the years, and it's interesting. As I get older, I start taking the onion layer and peeling it back. And I'm finding the things that I looked at before, the things that I have known before, there's more to it. So I'm finding myself now going back and looking at things. So let me give you another layer of this story. And this is what I saw. The temple. What do you think that might represent? I'm not going to give you any words. I just want you to think about that. Think about what the temple might represent. Then think, what does the river represent? And the waterfall. And the pool below. And the convenience or coincidence of a path that leads from where the temple was down to where the pool was. And what about the concern of the young monks? Their certainty in their minds and in their hearts that they had lost someone that was really dear to them, someone that meant a lot to them. What was the meanings there? Because there's several. When you put all of these things together, it's a much deeper story than just going with the flow. Yes, it is going with the flow. It's going with the flow of your life, regardless of what comes along. No matter if things are going well, the water's going up for you, or things aren't going so well, the water's going down for you. And a river. In most wisdom scriptures, there's always some rivers being described. And what is a river? What does a river really represent? The river always goes to the source. It always goes to the source. And I always like to say, the Hermetic principle is, it is above, so shall it be below. You go to the source, the sun shines on the ocean, the water evaporates, and it goes up into the air, into the clouds, and the clouds travel across the planet, and they hit the mountains, and it drops the water, and the cycle starts all over again. So from the source, it started, and where it started, it goes back to the source. So he falls into this eternal cycle. Didn't try to avoid it. Now in the story it says he slips into the water, but did he really? I don't think so. I don't think he really slips into the water. I think he actually immersed himself into that river. fully embrace his life, all the ups and all the downs of it. And to fall 75 or 100 feet over a waterfall, that's a pretty long way to go. I actually know how far that is. There's a place in New York up in a state park when I was a, believe it or not, Boy Scout. It's called Fawn's Leap. Okay? And you're leaping into an area that is probably half the size of one of these pews. And there's a big rock out there. So when you jump, you have to jump in the right spot.
Thank you for jumping in the right spot.
Yeah. Well, I did it at night. I'm not going to say why I did it at night, but I did it at night. And it's about a 90-foot drop. But I did it. So I kind of know what that kind of feels like. That's a pretty far away to fall. So there's a lot more to this story. How about the young monks? How many people in our lives tell us, you can't do that. That's not for you. You need to have a degree. Oh, you can't be a speaker, you have to write a book. Oh, what makes you think you can travel the world? How many times have we had someone say something to us that stops you in your tracks from whatever it is you wanted to do? And they're so sure of themselves. When the young monks came down, they were so sure that the old man hadn't survived. And when people tell you these kinds of things, they're so sure of themselves that what they're telling you is right. And you know what? From their perspective, the way they view the world, it is right. But it doesn't mean it's right for you. Doesn't mean it's right for you. One of the lines in the song that Phil just had us sing was, when all the pews are filled and it's okay, we shall be free. And in other words, everybody's going to have their point of view. Everybody's going to have their perspective on how we should live our life. I even have my perspective on how we should live our life that I come here and share with you all the time. And you listen to me. You really do. I mean, but it's my perspective. I don't expect every person in here to always embrace everything that I say. By all means, use your magnifying glass. Use your perspective. Use your eyes to judge it for yourself. Say, is this the right pair of pants for me to be putting on? Or skirt? If it is, great. If it's not, it's okay. When you're sharing your truth with another person says, I can't buy that. That's okay. It doesn't mean your truth is not right. It is. For you. And that's what's important. Not being someone else, but being who you are. Going up with the water and down with the water. There's another little Buddhist thing that I've heard over the years, many, 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 many times. And I always love it. And it's this. Wow.
Timing is everything.
Yes. You don't want me to say that? Oh. Okay. That was good. I couldn't have planned that. I didn't.
That was a good moment.
Yeah, I didn't plan that. All right, so that took me off track for a little bit, which is wonderful because I think that's what it's all about. So, be self-aware of who you are. Be self-aware of who you are and accept yourself for who you are. Don't worry about how other people are or how you think you're supposed to be. Just be you. We don't want you to be anybody else but you. If you're 100% completely you, walking around with just one flip-flop on, smiling like the dickens, you're perfect. Every single one of you are perfect. And there is only one you. There's only one us. There'll never be anybody else like you. I say this a lot. You're one of a kind. You're unique. You're special. You're the only one that brings the way you look at things, your perspective, to the rest of us. Nobody else can do that but you. That's huge. That's huge. But how many times do we get down on ourselves? Oh, my hair's not right today. Oh, gee, I can't wear these. Oh, the clothes I wanted to wear are still in the laundry. I'm going to be late. How many times do we give ourselves a bad time? He just told me. We do it a lot. Now, I'm not going to say that, okay, you're going to walk out of here today and Christopher said, stop giving myself a bad time, because you know what? You're probably still going to do it. But if you think about it, when you do give yourself a bad time, say, hey, you know, I don't need to do that. I'm a beautiful light being of light, of God. I'm part of God. I am this wonderful thing. I don't need to put myself down. I don't need to feel bad because I don't have this or I don't have that, or I thought I was going to be here when I'm here, or I'm here, or I'm here and I want to be here. There's the reverse. All of those things could take place, and they're all okay. But accept yourself for who you are. 99% of the reason why I come here and speak is because you're all so wonderfully, beautifully, uniquely yourselves. You're so open to being who you are. I can't speak like this in front of a lot of crowds that I talk to, but I can hear. That says a lot. It really, really says a lot. Okay, one more thing. Enlightenment. Ooh. Let's talk about enlightenment. What does it really mean? Here's the last little Buddhist saying that I've always heard that I'm going to leave with you. Okay, it's the last little teeny one. And it has to deal with enlightenment. And there was a master. And the young monks were sitting around talking. And one monk looks at the master and he says to him, "Master, now that you're enlightened, how has your life changed?" And the master said, "Well, before I reached enlightenment, I chopped wood and I carried water. Now, I chop wood and I carry water." Now that seems like a simple thing to say, but it is very, very deep. When we hit that place, it does not mean that instantaneously you're completely healed. Instantaneously you become psychic, or instantaneously you become this or that. What it does mean is that you have realized who you truly are. It's not a ticket to become something that you are not. If you hit enlightenment or Christ consciousness, or even Satori, which is a moment, a nanosecond of reaching that state, you will still be the vessel that you are. If your vessel, your karma, your way is to be psychic, you shall be. But not if that's not your vessel. If your vessel is to be a healer, you shall be. But not if it's not your vessel. I always think of the biblical analogy of the master that gives the servants talents. He gives one servant 5. Another he gives 2. And to his third servant he gives 1. And he goes off. And he says, "Take care of these things for me." And when he comes back after a period of time, he goes to the servant that he gave the 5 talents, and the servant comes up to him and he says, "Master, I have taken your talents and I have made 5 more talents." And the master said, "You're a good servant. They are now yours." And he goes to the other servant that he gave 2, and the servant says to him, "Master, I've taken the 2 talents and I've made 2 more talents." And the master says, "You're a good servant. Those talents are now yours. Go and do well." And then the third servant, who he gave 1 talent to, he goes to that servant, and the servant says to him, "Master, I didn't want anything to happen to your talent, so I took it and I hid it in the earth, and here it is." And the master took the talent back and he said, "You are not doing what I wanted you to do." And he takes the talent away. So regardless of what talents you have, those things will grow. But don't expect to have talents that aren't your vessel. Don't try to walk another person's path. You know, a lot of times folks have asked me, he said, "Well, you know, how do you do what you do?" And my answer is, that's what my talent is. I don't really tap in or hear stuff. I go from here. I'm just following my own path. Do I know that there's guides and there's angels, and I have a whole host of probably surrounding me? Can I hear them? No. That's not my talent. I don't hear them. But I have faith that they're there. I have faith that they're there. I know when I come here to speak, I don't really have to think too much about what I'm going to say. Because I know stuff's going to come through. Have somebody on this side, on the other side of the veil, told me that? No. I have faith that it's there. That's my talent. That's the path that I walk. We all have a talent. So when you do hit that point, it's not an instantaneous ticket for this or for that or for something else. It's just allowing you to realize your true self. And that's huge. That's huge. Oh, perfect timing. Namaste. Thank you. So,
You're not going to answer it this time?
I'm going to end it with this.
Probably not.
I've read this poem once before. I really like it. It's called Here I Grow Again. It's by an unknown author, which I love it when it's an unknown author because we're all unknown. It says, here I grow again. Don't worry if you have problems, which is easy to say until you are in the midst of a really big one, I know. But the only people I am aware of who don't have any problems are gathered in a little neighborhood. Most communities have at least one. They're called cemeteries. If you are breathing, you have difficulties. It's the way of life. And believe it or not, most of your problems might actually be good for you. Let me explain. Maybe you've seen the Great Barrier Reef stretching some 1,800 miles from New Guinea to Australia. A guide tour regularly takes visitors to visit the reef. On one tour, the guide was asked an interesting question. The lagoon side of the reef looks pale and lifeless, while the ocean side is vibrant and colorful, the traveler observed. Why is this? The guide gave an interesting answer. The coral surrounding the lagoon side is still water, with no challenge to its survival. It dies early. The coral on the ocean side is constantly being tested by wind, waves, storm surges of power. It has to fight for survival every day of its life. As it is challenged and tested, it changes and adapts. It grows healthy, it grows strong, and it reproduces. Then he added this telling note. That's the way it is with every living organism. That's the way it is with every living organism. Coral pounded by the sea we grow. Physical demands can cause us to grow stronger. Mental and emotional stress can produce tough-mindedness and resiliency. Spiritual testing can produce strength of character and faithfulness. So, you have problems? No problem. Just tell yourself, here I grow again.